Hey everybody, welcome to Barbecue by Biggs. I'm Aaron, and today we're gonna do a brisket. A little bit different this time because we're gonna do an overnight brisket on the Yoder pellet smoker. So if you wanna see how this thing turns out, you guys come along with us and stay tuned. So when I do briskets, what I like to do is take this plastic wrap and just wrap my counter. And this does two things. After I'm done trimming and seasoning, then I just take this plastic wrap and I usually wrap that brisket back up in this plastic wrap and put it back in the fridge for an hour or so, because I like to put my brisket on cold. That does a couple of things. It allows it to be in the smoke a little bit longer before it starts reaching that temperature where it doesn't take smoke anymore. And it also helps develop the smoke ring. And I know the smoke ring really doesn't matter as far as taste, but I like my brisket to have a pretty good appearance too. So these are great for trimming briskets, these large ones from Sam's Club, but what happens is it slides around. So either get a wet towel or you can use some shelf liner that you put in your shelves. Keeps it solid as a rock. And then that shelf liner is like a PVC material. It's really easy to clean in case you got some blood down there or whatever happens. All right, this is just a choice brisket, USDA choice that we got from our local grocery store, HEB, for those of you guys that know it. On sale, $2.96 a pound. It looks pretty good, pretty thick, pretty even across here. Not a whole lot of fat. There is some here that we're gonna have to trim off. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna do a limited trim on this today, not a competition trim, just a backyard trim, just to make sure that we have some good lines, that we have some good smoke flow throughout this. So we only paid $41.20 for this, which is not bad. 13.92 pounds is what it is before trimming. Probably gonna trim about 2 pounds of fat, maybe 2.5 pounds of fat. So when it goes on, we're gonna have about 11-pound brisket. All right, when you get your brisket laid out, you gotta look at it and see, hey, okay, what's gonna be my plan of attack? Well, we know we're gonna have to cut this decal off, and then we gotta determine, are we cooking this fat side up, or are we cooking this fat side down? Now that's really gonna matter how your cooker's set up. So if your heat is coming from the bottom, like most pellet smokers do, my pellet smoker, if I do it on the bottom rack, it's from the bottom. If I do it on the top rack, it's actually radiating that heat back down. So we're gonna do fat side up on this one because we're gonna cook it on the upper rack. But depending on how you're gonna cook it is how you're gonna trim it out here. So you want this thing to be as aerodynamic as possible. Think of a Corvette or a Camaro and the way that front end looks. So you're not gonna have a big fat Galaxy 500 front end. You're gonna have a rounded front end where that smoke comes in, goes over the top, and doesn't hit something. Anytime your smoke flow hits something, you're gonna have more smoke in that area, and then it's gonna miss some further on down here. So you wanna have a good slope on your brisket, and you wanna have a good rounded trim. So we'll get this trimmed off. We're just gonna take this decal fat off. We're gonna do fat side up. So we're gonna make sure that we take things like this off. We do make sausage, so we'll save some of this for sausage making, but then we'll trim this down as well. So we'll get it trimmed out here. All right, we're in pretty good shape. There's still a little bit here and there, so we'll bring you guys back to put some rub on. You got two choices here. You can go without a binder if you want to. Go ahead and put your rub on. This one is kind of dry, so I want to make sure that I have a good adhesion with my rub, so I'm going to use a binder. So you got a couple of different options. You could use Worcestershire sauce or W sauce, however you want to say it. You can use soy sauce, you can use olive oil. I try to stay away from oils on this because when that oil heats up, then your rub kind of slides off. So you want to try to use something that is sticky, that has a little bit of sugar in it, maybe a little vinegar in it, and it'll make sure it sticks to it. So W sauce, soy sauce. Hell, you can even use water if you want to get it moist, and it should be fine as it dries up. But we're going to use mustard for this one. We're going to go ahead and coat it with mustard, just a fine layer on there. You don't want to have too much on there because you don't want that mustard to shine through on this piece of meat. Now, this is a big piece of meat, so having that mustard shine through that meat, probably not gonna happen. But we wanna make sure that we have a thin coat on here so you taste the beef and not anything that's outside of that beef flavor. So, and a word to the wise, make sure your mustard's closed before you shake it, because it does make a mess when you're not paying attention. So, all right, mustard on, just one thin line right across the top. We'll get that rubbed in. Don't forget the sides. A lot of people forget the sides. Do not forget your sides. Good coat on there, go to the other side. Again. All right, got a good coating on it. We put the saran wrap on the table so we could take this off and just slide it right onto the saran wrap and go to town on our seasoning. So this is going up, so we'll start with the back side first. So we're gonna use 2 rubs. We have the competition cow powder from Uncle Steve's that'll add a little bit of flavor to it, and then we're gonna use our own salt, pepper, garlic mixture. Now we wanted to have a little bit more flavor, so we're gonna use this competition cow powder, and that's what we're gonna add on first. So we'll just put a coating of that on top. And we'll make sure that we get the sides. Not putting this thick, because we wanna make sure that we get enough of the other stuff on there. So just a coating there. So now we'll come back with our SPG, and then we'll just put that on there liberally here. Again, don't forget the sides. Even turn it up on the side and get something on there. Don't forget the sides. All right, this side, Uncle Steve's competition cow powder, cow shake there. Good little coating on there. Now this is a pretty large piece of meat, so depends on what you like is how much you put on it. I like a lot on it. Remember, you're just gonna have a small slice. This seasoning is not gonna go down into that meat. Now, I mean, it'll penetrate some with the salt and everything else, but the pepper and stuff, that's gonna stay on that top layer of bark. So if you're gonna cut small pieces of meat off of this, all you're gonna get is just a little bit of seasoning. So it's all to your liking. All right, we took that fat and we put that fat into a little metal container, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna cover that fat up with foil. We don't wanna have it in smoke for 12 hours, but we are gonna put it on the smoker with the brisket. It's gonna be covered with foil, in with brisket, and then what it's gonna do is gonna render some fat down, so we're gonna have some tallow at the end. When we wrap it up, we'll use it. All right, we got it all seasoned up. What we're gonna do now is we're just gonna take and make sure that the sides are good. We're gonna take this saran wrap, we're just gonna wrap this thing up, put it in the refrigerator for about 4 hours. Cold, couple things, salt marinating into it, and the other thing is it'll be cold when it goes on, like we talked about at the beginning. So we'll get this thing wrapped up and into the fridge, and we'll bring you guys back when we're ready to get it on the smoker here in a few hours. All right, welcome back. We got the brisket out of the refrigerator. It's been there for a few hours. It's nice and ice cold. We're gonna touch it up with a little bit of SPG before we put it on. But first we want to get together our water. So we got the Yoder up to 225 degrees. We're going to use B&B competition blend pellets. No special pellets there, just the regular competition blend. So you can use the B&B or Pit Boss or whatever the competition blend is in your neck of the woods. So we got the brisket ready. So now we're going to get water. So the heat of that pellet smoker is coming up from the bottom. We're going to make sure that we protect this because it's going to be an overnight cook. So we're going to put water underneath it. In that water, we have some apple cider vinegar. So we have a total of 8 cups, 2 cups of apple cider vinegar to 6 cups of water. And then we're going to divide this between 2 trays. These two small trays, if you have a large tray, that's fine. These two small trays together right underneath this brisket will give us some good coverage underneath it. So we're gonna divide it evenly between these two trays. So we'll go here, it was 8 cups total, we'll put 4 in. And you don't have to be exact on this. Now we got plenty of water in both. Then we're gonna put a little beer, just because we want some beer before we go to bed. Got a little bit of Shiner Light Blonde. We're gonna put that in there. Got a half on this side. Maybe not quite half. Leave us a couple drinks there. All right, so we got the water ready. We're gonna get that on the bottom shelf. So as we told you before, we wrap this brisket up in the cellophane wrap. It looks like the rub has held real good on it. Won't need to touch it up very much. It actually looks very good. Usually you lose some of it when you wrap it, but this one looks very good. And we'll get this on there. We're gonna cook it on the top shelf, so it is fat side up, because this pellet smoker is hotter on the bottom, and then it comes up and hits the top and reflects back down. So the heat is actually coming from the top of this one. So we're gonna have fat side up. If we were cooking it on the bottom shelf, it would be on fat side down, and that's because the heat is coming towards it. That fat layer, whether you believe it runs through the inside of the brisket or not, it doesn't, but it's there as a protective coating to make sure that it doesn't dry out. So we have the water underneath, and we got the fat layer on the top, so we should be good there. It looks good, it's good and seasoned. We'll get that on there 225 degrees. Now we did take all that fat, like we said, we put it in a little metal container. This is gonna cook inside with that brisket. And when we're done, we should have some tallow in the bottom, and we'll use that tallow if we wrap. We may not wrap. We'll have to see what the bark looks like and how good it looks. Like I said, we're putting this on. It's about 10 o'clock at night. We're just gonna let it run overnight and then get up in the morning. So I'm not gonna get up in the middle of the night and wrap it, but in the morning, if the color looks good and the temperature looks right, we'll wrap it, and we'll use this to wrap it. If we don't wrap it, we'll use this to wrap it and put it in the cooler before we let it rest. So we'll get it on now. All right, like I said before, we're at 225 degrees. Open this thing up, get going here. So we got our water in underneath the bottom. We're gonna cook it on this side because it's more even temperature. Over here by the exhaust, it's a little bit hotter. So since it is hotter in this area, we're gonna put the point towards that heat. So we'll go up and get that brisket on. Right in the middle. Make sure that you do any adjustments before, because how you lay it is how it's gonna cook. All right, this thing looks good. All right, we're literally gonna put this thing to bed. So we're gonna put it to sleep here on the smoker at 225. We will not check on it until in the morning. So I'm gonna come back here in about an hour or so and go ahead and stick the probe in so I can get ready to go to bed myself, and we'll bring you guys back in the morning to see how she's doing. See you then. So one thing I wanted to point out, I got the probes in, as you can see the temps were covering. One thing I wanted to point out, I'm using my other fireboard, and I just put it directly on the grill to make sure that if I have any issues with temperature in the middle of the night, that I set an alarm just for this fireboard to go off and alert me. Now, leaving these things going overnight, you gotta have some sort of a alarm clock, so to speak. If something goes wrong, it'll let you know. So you can use the internal one in the Yoder. I use the external one, use the internal ones for my probes in the brisket. So just wanted to kind of point that out. I'm not leaving this unattended, so to speak. It's electronically controlled. This is just a backup in case this one doesn't tell me what I need to know. So thought I'd point that out to you guys. Hey everybody, welcome back. Good morning. So we're gonna check in on this brisket. Internal temperature shows to be about 141 on one side and about 165 on the other side. So I think that if the look of the brisket looks right, we're gonna go ahead and wrap it this morning, bump up that temperature, and go ahead and finish it off. It's been on for about 12 hours at 225 degrees. I checked the chart last night, and it ranged anywhere between 200 up to 230 or so. It went pretty good throughout the night. So we're gonna look in on this thing. If the color looks right, the bark's set up, which it should be after 12 hours, we're gonna go ahead and wrap it up and get this thing finished. So let's check it out. All right, I always get asked how much pellets we used. You look here, you probably used about half the bin or so for a 12-hour smoke. That's at the lower temperatures, so higher temperatures, of course, is gonna burn through it a little bit quicker. So, all right, let's take a look at it. Oh, look at that color. Man, it is looking good. Let me get you in for a closer look. Good color, good bark. Still moist. Have a little pooling there I need to take care of. Oh yeah. This thing looks good. So now we're going to just get these probes out and get this thing wrapped up. So we're just going to take this paper. We've already taken the paper. If you can see, we folded it one way this way, and we fold the other one the opposite way. And all we're going to do is take this paper and slide this paper into the other one. It's going to give you a seal lock there, so you can have double wide paper with no leaks. So last night when we put that brisket on, we also put those brisket fat and we covered it so it wouldn't get too smoky. But as you can tell, we've got a lot of tallow there. So we're going to use that tallow on this brisket. Remember, when you put this on, you want to go ahead and cover it so it doesn't get too smoky. And then as it renders down, you'll have your tallow inside when you're done. Now, there's a couple of ways you can do this. If you already have some tallow made, you can put some tallow on it. If you don't have tallow made, this is just the way we do it when we have a not as good piece of meat. So we're just going to take a little bit of this tallow, and we're going to put it on as we put this on. Get some on there, and then we're going to just take it and drip it over top of this. So you can just like that. All right, now that we got the tallow on there, we're just going to take this. We're just going to come around, make that first. I want this to be right at the edge, so we're going to bring this back just a tad. Over the top. And we're going to take this, fold it in the middle like this. Yeah. Take this one, fold it in the middle like that. Straighten that out. And we're just going to roll it. One time. So right now, fat side down, roll it again, fat side up. Then all we're going to do is take this extra here. We'll just take this extra here. And do it like this. And either you can cut it off, or I like to have that extra protection on the bottom. I'll just take it and so I like to have the extra protection on the bottom, so I'll just take it and I'll just put it underneath it. Just like that. So now that we've got it wrapped up, we're going to get it back on the smoker, 250 degrees, and get it finished off. So now that we've got it wrapped up, we're going to get it back on the smoker, 250 degrees, and get it finished off. All right, here we go, going back on. All right, we'll bring you guys back when she's done. We're looking for an internal temperature of about 203 or so. We'll start probing at about 195 just to see where we're at, and then we'll pull it off when it is probe tender, not necessarily to temperature. So, see y'all then. All right, so we're about 13 and a half hours in. Looks like temperatures come up to about 198 on one end, 200 on the other. We're gonna check it for probe tenderness and see if it needs to come off. So at this point, we're not going by temperature, we're going by what it feels like when we stick the probe in. So we'll check it out and see if it's ready to take off. All right, it's been rolling along at 250. We're gonna check it out and see how tender it is. So remember, when you do this, make sure you have a little bit bigger hole in the paper so you can actually feel how it is. And that feels like butter. So now we'll go to the front, do the same. Looks like the point's a little bit more tender than the flat, but once it rests, it should be fine. We're gonna go ahead and get this thing pulled off. What we're gonna do is we're gonna pull it off and then we're gonna burp it, meaning that we're gonna open it up and let it cool down for just a few minutes, just a quick cooking, and then we're gonna go into a cooler covered with a towel, and we're gonna rest it for about 3 to 4 hours or so. So we'll get this pulled off and get it in that cooler. Oh, got some juices running out of this thing. Again, we're just gonna open it up and burp it. Look at all that juice in there. Once we burp it, we're gonna rewrap it, wrap it in towel, put it in the cooler. So. All right, we are gonna rewrap this in some fresh paper. Got a little bit of that tallow left over from that's in here. We wanna make sure we dry it out just a tad bit. All right, we had a little tear in this paper, so we are gonna rewrap it. We're just gonna take some of this juicy goodness from the other one and make sure we get that in this one. All right. All right, we'll rewrap it up here. Slide it up a little bit. All right, we got it rewrapped. Now we're gonna wrap it in a towel and then we'll just lower it into a cooler. And then, you know what? It's gonna sit for 3, maybe 4 hours, right about dinner time. And then we'll get you guys in for the cut and a taste test. So we'll see you guys when that time is ready. All right, we got this thing out of the cooler after a 4-hour rest. We're gonna cut into it and see how it is and give a taste test. So let me bring you in here to see that. Man, that bark looks good. You can see that seasoning set in. Oh yeah. Let's get a slice of this. Let's slice in and see it. So we'll just cut it right in the middle here. You got the point coming down flat here. So we'll just cut it right in the middle here. See how we did. Now, I'm not gonna squeeze all my juices out, but I'll just let you sit there and see it run. No squeeze, guys, no squeeze. Look at that juice coming out of there. Man, oh man. Cut that point in half. Oh my goodness. Juicy as can be, and this is a choice. Look, no squeeze. Got a beautiful smoke ring on it. Looks good. Let's see, it pulls apart. Yep, pulls apart. Can't wait to taste that. Let's get a cut of this back here. Look at that mamma jamma. Oh my goodness, look at that. Whew. All right, let's get a taste of these. All right, let's get a taste of this. We'll do the flat first. Damn good brisket. taste the juicy side. Get that end off there. See the end. See how, look at that. That's crazy. Oh yeah. So as long as you're taking precautions, there should be no reason why you can cook one of these on a pellet grill overnight. Just make sure that you have some way to alert you if you have any problems with your temperatures. So, overnight pellet brisket is a success. We'll see you guys next time.